Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Welcome again, folks. Hey, boy, I tell you, we have another powerful show. We did one initially. We talked about the governor. We had the governor's race. And we talked about that. We talked about the city. We talked about the county. And one of those people that was part of that group was Joe. And we had him involved in the process. And we didn't want to do the overbearing and whatever. I was representing the county as part of the deal. I was wearing two hats to a certain degree. But this particular show, we're going to come right back into, and I don't know how to use the word, but it is, until we get it cleaned up, the swamp. Mm-hmm. Every state in the union has a swamp. Mm-hmm. Then naturally the congressional folks, they have a swamp aspect of it. So the name of the game is that we're going to be talking about Multnomah County, District number 1, 2, 3, and 4, but specifically District number 2. I reached out to the other women who are running for county chair. I'm running for county chair, but I happen to have two hats to a certain degree, and I'm nonpartisan when I sit in this chair, point blank. It's about the issues across the board. The other commissioners I reached out. They did not respond to their whatever. I've gone before the commissioners and tried to talk to them. They didn't want to deal with that either. So, but the bottom line is that I'm here. So I'm representing that piece of the aspect of it. Mm-hmm. And then I've got someone that is running for district number 2. Again, I've reached out to district number 2 because they too were very important. But this is the most important district in the county because that's where all the action is. That's where all the problem is. That's where the major swamps are. I mean, we got crocodiles in here so big, and that swamp is pathetic, and we got to get rid of them. I just use that term, if you will. But the fact of the matter, we got Elizabeth Taylor. I call her Liz. Do you mind if I call you Liz, Miss Taylor?
Not
Mrs.
at
Taylor?
all. That's what everybody calls me.
Okay,
My
Mrs.
friends
Taylor.
call me Liz.
Okay, Mrs. Taylor. Can I just say Liz or Mrs. Taylor? What should I say?
Liz Taylor.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. You get that, Joe?
I got it.
Okay, good. And that's Joseph, okay. Because I know it's Joseph. Mind if I call you Joe?
That's fine.
Good, but he is naturally running for city council with Joanne Hardesty. In all due respect, straight up with you, I've reached out to Joanne, but she has not responded to her call. When she ran for city council initially, I did have her here, and we did spend some time to educate the people about who she was. And trust me, you can look at it. You can look at it on YouTube in my directory, if you will. Just go to YouTube, and there's a bunch of shows down there, and just you can see it. You can just bring her up aspect of it. But the fact of the matter is, we've got to talk about this area, the Portland metropolitan area, and that's why I have these two people on, and we're going to be talking about the politics of this area. And both of them are running for office, and I know for a fact they've got their lanes, and I know that because I've talked with them at length about their lanes. But they're right up front, folks. They're really involved all over the place. They can talk about Oregon. They can talk about the United. I mean, they can talk about D.C. I know them that well. But my job is to keep them in that swamp because that swamp is tough. Nobody want to get in this swamp. And I will say that these folks, they understand what it's all about.
That's right.
You know, hopefully we'll get down to the point we can call it the City of Roses. Get away from the swamp piece aspect of it, the City of Roses, because it was that way.
Yeah.
About 3 years ago. Okay, got me? And we just got deeper and deeper in this stuff. And so it's so important. It's so important for us to get out and vote. It's so important for us to understand what these issues are. And it's so important, rather than getting so angry about it, come up with solutions.
Exactly.
We need solutions. And if you've got some solutions that in all due respect are not being discussed and you really have a good solution, you can call me. 503-701-0457. In fact, 503-701-0457. Now remember, when you call that number, I know you're angry, so I don't want to hear all your chatting. Talk to me about a solution. And if it's something that fits, I'll bring you on the show. And if you don't want to be seen on the show, you can call me on the phone. But we're going to be talking about solutions, okay? Don't get personally attacking anyone. It's about solutions so we can get back to the City of Roses, folks. I mean, I'm at that point in my life. I mean, I realize I'm a little younger than, in fact, I'm a little younger than any of the folks that are sitting here. I'm 33 years old and 50 years worth of experience. See, so did you get that? You catch that one?
I did.
They fall in the same category, by the way. If they put it in that notation, then they're younger. Okay, But I'm not trying to be funny about the piece, but it's so serious.
Yeah.
Am I fair? That okay?
That's
So,
totally fair.
so what we're going to do? We spent some time with Joseph. Joe's on the phone. Joe's here now. Joe's on the phone. He's here right now with us, and we're going to be discussing again, like I said, the Portland area aspect of it. I want to spend a little bit more time with him because he had a couple other things to talk about solutions. He's talked about the front part, his qualifications, and his history, if you will, of running for office for mayor and on and now his city and whatever. But he's got some other things he won't talk about. But what we're going to do, we're going to focus a little bit more time right now on the front end with Liz. Liz, who's running for district number 2. District number 2, and she's going to define district number 2. She's going to define why she is running, and she's going to give us some of that history of which is very, very important, because if you don't know where you've been, how are you going to talk about the futures, right? And I tell you, she's very capable and whatever, and she was one of the ones that responded to my reaching out to people in the community. And boy, I tell you, I mean, I tell you, she had to really make some sacrifices. I mean, you know, when you're new in this kind of business, you don't have people coming to you and trying to give you that checkbook so that you can deal with the issues of those folks like incumbents who's got $100,000 in deal, or they got all of these so-called politios that are supporting them. You got my point?
Right.
Exactly.
So I want you to know that she falls in that category. I know the sacrifices she's made. If she wants to talk about them, she can. But the fact of the matter is that she's made some sacrifices. I've made them. You know, dude, I'll be straight up with you. I couldn't be sitting in this seat as a millionaire today. I could have done it. I mean, the first house I built was a 38 senior citizen unit, $1.2 million, called Walnut Park, right in the back of the police department on Killingsworth and MLK, sitting right there. But guess what? You don't keep that kind of money, especially if you're sitting in the seat like I'm sitting right now. I'm very community really aspect of it, but the good Lord gave me those abilities. And then as far as I'm concerned, I have no problem at all. No problem at all. We're going to continue on. So with that, I'm trying not to brag on me. I'm just letting you know that these people are giving up quite a bit just to show their face at this point in time in this swamp, because people are grabbing at them for days. And those people that we say are very negative, whether it be young people, the shooting and this, that, and the other, I'll be right up front with it. When I came here as a Marine recruiter, those are the folks that I went for. And I got them to become good citizens, if you will, as aspects of it. So I have a different light about that piece, but I was a recruiter. And so I'm just saying to you that let's not just point fingers at folks. Come up with solutions, folks. Come up with solutions. Why did they get in the position that they're in? Okay? Like that. So I've said enough. My jelly bean is worn out now. I think I can go on and let somebody else talk for a change. Liz, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
I know this is the first time around, and I know that you made up your mind to run, and by George, I tell you, I really appreciate the fact that you're representing the community. You got a story to tell. So we're going to start off with you. Why don't you just introduce yourself, talk a little bit about yourself, especially that history aspect of it, and then tell the folks why you're running for district number 2.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Elizabeth Taylor Dixon. My friends call me Liz Taylor. I'm not a Dixon. I'm no longer a Dixon. So let's clear the air on that one.
All right.
I'm single. But the reason I grew up in Portland, Oregon. I was born in 1954. So if you do the math, you'll see that I'm 68 years old. I look pretty good for 68, right?
Okay.
I have been infatuated with the history of the black population in Oregon from the very beginning. And as I studied more, I learned that I've lived through a major part of the history, because our history did not go back to living the experiences that were going on in the South while I was on the West Coast in Oregon. What I found out was the history that I grew up and the area and the place where I grew up, the history was very, very dark and very, very shameful, to the point where even to this day, the history of Oregon, the true history of Oregon in relation to the black population, was diabolical.
Tell us about
It's
it.
called racism.
Okay,
I
okay.
didn't know what racism was. I grew up in Portland, Oregon. My ancestors moved here, and their final resting places are here since the 1940s. My great grandmother was born in 1872, which is 6 years after Emancipation Proclamation. Okay, and she was buried at Lincoln Memorial. My
Right here
whole
in Portland,
family,
in Portland.
yeah, my whole family, they're either in Lincoln Memorial, they're in Lincoln Memorial Cemetery, they're in, and I mean we're talking about the whole family, aunts, uncles. There was very little divorce. I was a black sheep of the family. Here I come, 50 years later. I'm the black sheep in the family, divorced, but our families had traditions, and those traditions allowed this group to grow and to progress and to withstand the pressures and the sacrifices that were made to become, for me to be here today, to run for county commissioner and know what the hell I'm talking about. One of the things that really disturbed me, that I have to focus on today, is the fact that the once black community model cities program that was recognized by the Congress, that was recognized by Lyndon Baines Johnson, sent money to North and Northeast Portland, and for the war on poverty, because of racism was so bad in the state of Oregon. Black folks were just denied. Well, you denied credit, you denied entering into schools, you denied they were denied entering uh, professional jobs. They were denied. They were just racism. Just put you out. It just put black folks out of the game. So today we're living the results of that, and the results of that means it shows in the census, the 2020 census, that we now have a huge disparity in income, education, housing. For example, in 1971, you had a population in North and Northeast Portland of 65% black vote. Okay? Today you have a population of 1% black vote. What happened? You had, there's things that are just not being addressed even today, that a lot of work needs to be done, and that's with the real estate industry. Fraudulent practices have gone on, and they're not policed. That's one of the reasons that I want to run for office, because there are things that need to be clarified so that we as a government can make corrective decisions and make sure that the black community matters too. Because right now, the homeless population, and I love people, but the homeless population personally has been a thorn in my side. I live off Marine Drive in MLK. I ride past Delta Park almost daily to go to Walmart or the DMV, or just to hit the freeway in a
Now,
different
are
way.
these all black folks?
These are white people. Okay, these are not. One of the things, if you study the black population, there's certain things that you'll learn. Black folks don't live outside, okay? Even in the slave days, even in the South, black folks lived in shacks with a porch and a rocking chair. You know, we don't live under plastic tarps. We don't use you know the bath. If you go to the bathroom, you go to an outhouse. You don't just squat and go where. I mean, Delta Park is you know, it's near and dear to my heart. Not only because just happen to live there now, but it's near and dear to my heart because of the Vanport, the history
Yeah.
of my ancestors, and how the reasons that they came to Oregon in the first place were recruited to come to Oregon, but were deceived by not being told that. But you cannot enter into the state of Oregon. You will be stopped right there. You know, there's no slavery going on there, but you're going to be stopped right at the border of Vanport and Oregon, which makes me think, well, I mean, of Washington and Oregon, Vancouver, Washington, Oregon, which makes me think, well, but the history tells us that Vanport is the second largest city in the state of Oregon. So when I'm looking at, you know, I see
Again, you're talking about Vanport, Portland, and Vancouver.
Vanport,
Vancouver, Washington, and Portland, Oregon.
Vancouver, Washington, yeah, and the border of Oregon were called Vanport. But the history tells us, and I did some more research last night, that says that it's a well-known fact that Vancouver has always been a suburb of Oregon. Now, who knows? Who knows?
You know, my dad, when I was a child, my dad used to take me down to PIR and said, right out there is where I live. This was Vanport. We lived here. We lived here during the flood. And so getting to hear that, that's all I've ever heard about Vanport. I always thought it was just that PIR
Hayden Island.
Island area. But last time I was on your show, you talked about Vancouver, Portland, Vanport. That really tied a lot in. Got a little more understanding, and now I'm learning just a little bit more about
Yep.
the area. So please continue.
Well, you ask yourself, so you wonder why. Then you think about Hurricane Katrina, because that's probably the closest, most epic event that's ever happened since the flood, the Vanport flood. But you get inside the people in the Vanport, and you ask yourself, well, why wasn't Vanport rebuilt?
Exactly.
Why wasn't it rebuilt? And when you had 33,000 black people living there,
And other people.
and other people,
And that's why it wasn't built.
but the other
Whites,
people,
and they was diverse.
but the other people during that time were put into concentration camps. You had 6 different nationalities at that time. And let me just say this, and I'm brief. The black folks that were recruited by the Kaiser Foundation anyway, and put in a temporary housing shelter. And this is what I'm saying. This is in 1940. You had 110 houses, temporary housing
Largest city.
that was built in in 110 days. You had temporary housing built in 110 days that housed 33,000 blacks.
Okay, with that. Okay, keep going.
At any rate, when you think about the reason that there was such a large population of black folks living in a specific area in Oregon, that's when you have to ask why. And when you ask why, then you'll learn. And if you research, that's when you'll learn the reasons that today the growth and the progression of the black population in Oregon has been denied through racism. So all I want to do is just give an opportunity to people to learn the history of Oregon. give people an opportunity to learn that I'm not the enemy. I don't hate anybody. I'm a peaceful, loving person. I grew up, I was bused. I grew up as the black person, the black kid in the room. You see? And I feel like because of that, I'm a very diverse person because I didn't know that I was being discriminated against. I didn't learn that I was being discriminated against until after I became an adult, until after I got hired at Xerox, and and different. And I like corporate sales, but I was denied a lot of positions because I learned something else about the black woman is and racism in Oregon was hitting the glass ceiling, and when I hit the glass ceiling. I guess I was about 50 something years old, and I was slapped with a lawsuit. I was slapped with the company that I worked for, Yellow Book Yellow Pages, was slapped with a lawsuit of discrimination. And at that time, this was like in 2009. I was still the only at that time when the lawsuit became in effect. I was the only black person working for Yellow Book Yellow Pages in Oregon, in Tigard, Oregon. As a result of that, my pension. I worked I worked 3 and 4 jobs all my life,
Yeah.
and like just to make ends meet. I was on I had a national defense student loan, not knowing that that would affect my credit for the rest of my life. I could sell everything that I did, I had to pay cash. Can you imagine going through life without a credit card
No.
and your outside sales and your transmission goes out or your alternator goes out and you got to have a car? I did it. It can be done, but it takes a lot. It takes a lot
in
of
all due respect,
willpower.
that's why I reached out to you. Because you can take a
Really?
difficult situation.
Well, I'm telling you, but I would not recommend that for
That's why I
anybody.
hear that.
And and life could be so much easier if the government would be more apologetic, because I believe that's what's required. First of all, let's talk about the people, because one of the things about civil rights era, when people march, protest peacefully, as Martin Luther King preached, we learned to get things done. We learned how to get things done systematically, and nobody gets hurt. And nobody, but to maintain a state that is known as Whitelandia, that's known as that tells me that even my Congress people, even my governor, is not representing the black community, and it's not representing the black community and the contributions, the great, huge contributions that blacks have made in the state of Oregon. Just since 1941, they are not telling the truth about what's going on. When you hear about in the Congress, obviously you're hearing about the blighted community, not knowing that the blighted community was because black folks would have been homeowners. Anybody living in a home for 50 years, but it's a rental property, and the landlord is a slumlord that lives in another state or even another country, or you have a landlord that just went and bought up a bunch of houses for cheaply and gave them to just and rented them to black folks. Black folks were renting a lot of homes, but they couldn't even open up a bank account. And then when you're talking about banking, when you talk about financing, what are you gonna do when you can't even you can't even write a check. You can't use a credit card and pay a small amount every month. So what do? You compensate. You do things like you grow gardens. You love your home. You take care of your elders. You don't put your elders in a nursing home for strangers to take care of. You keep you take care of your elders until they pass peacefully in your home, and the family takes care of them. What happens with the children with daycare? The cousins and the neighbors and the church people take care of the kids. What happens with the morals and goals of children growing up? If you notice in North and Northeast Portland, you have more black churches than can be counted. And at one point, they were filled. The pews were filled. They worked together, those churches worked together for the good of the entire county as just opposed to being racist. We have never, the black population has never, ever, even the misconception of the Black Panthers role in Portland, Oregon, and in the county. The Black Panthers role was not at all to be violent or deceptive. All the Black Panthers wanted to let the state know is that you guys are practicing genocide because you're introducing sex education into the schools, which opens up Planned Parenthood, and these kids, these high school kids, 14, 15, 16 years old, are going and getting birth controls, and their parents don't know about it. That was the issue. That was the whole issue. This is genocide. Because I know, in my household, my grandmother always said, she said, baby, you get the ABCs, do, re, mi, and don't bring me no babies. Well, not when you're not when you're a sophomore in high school.
Exactly.
And they've spent all this money for you to go through gymnastics and oh my God, tap dancing, ballet, swim lessons. You're traveling across country with your church and singing in the choir with different church groups. You're competing in pageant shows and stuff. Don't bring me no babies. So here you have an easy, open. I mean, what is a kid gonna do? Man, they started, pardon my French, they started getting it on like rabbits, okay?
Oh boy.
And that's what's going on. So I don't understand why today, it started then, what was that, 1969, 70? 1970. So it started in 1970, but look at today, and we're talking about the rights of women, the rights of women. Women should have the right to control their bodies, but when you're underage, your mind is not developed. Number one, you don't know. I mean, in my family, the best parents were the grandparents, because the parents struggled, but the grandparents took care of the kids. The grandparents and the great grandparents took care of the kids and helped to finance the families. So, but families are being broken up today, and families are just, black families are displaced, but not just black families, poor families. And it's all because somebody started that train. Somebody started that train of, what can I say, thievery, misuse of money, of government money,
Distrust.
Drugs.
distrust. Don't even mention drugs.
Yeah.
Okay? And I'm going to tell you right now, no, I probably shouldn't. I probably shouldn't.
This will be a
But
high
I'm
note.
against drug. I'm against decriminalization of any addictive drug.
Hold up for a second. I'm going to make that your high note because you're going to be here next week again.
Okay.
Okay? We're going to do this again. I want you now to shift to the district. Why you're running for office. I know you part of your introduction was a why because you've given the history of who you are, and we could pretty well tell from what you shared. We understand that now, and I think the viewing public understands that.
Okay.
Now we need to talk about the district and where we are now, and how do you relate that with reference to the city of Portland? Because in all due respect, the district, Multnomah County, is really the chairperson for all these issues. There's 4 districts in there, and they represent various cities
Okay.
within the district. One of the cities is the largest, happens to be the largest city in the state of Oregon. It's called Portland, Oregon, and it's located in District Number 2.
That's right.
Now, so let's talk about that. You're running for District Number 2 because at the end of in about 15 minutes before we get, I want to make sure that Joseph was part of it because he's part of it because he's the city of Portland. That's why he's sitting here. He is the city of Portland, and he's basically expressed himself as to why he's running for office in District Number 2.
Okay.
And you just so happen to talk because he's here. He talks about your history, the Vanport thing, whatever, because he
Right.
happens to be here too. See, so that's why it all makes sense, and that's why he's sitting here. So why don't
Okay.
you start talking about why you're running for District Number 2 and the solutions to, and what do you think is one of the top issue, that's been identified to all the voting public right now. We got housing, we got mental illness, we got drugs, we got the garbage situation. That's huge. That's big business.
Exactly.
We got the crime. We got all so now. Why don't you just start talking now about your running for District Number 2? What do you think about the person that's already sitting in the seat? Because in all due respect, it's a two-term kind of a seat, 4 years each, and she's running for this. She's running for her second term, and that's who you're running against.
I got you.
So evidently, you must not be too pleased with the fact that she's running for a second term because you're running there. So you probably I'm sure you've done your research on what she's already done. And I'm not trying to knock her. I'm just saying she has a platform and she's got a lane. But now you're saying you're counting that. You're saying, no, I'm going to bring something that's going to resolve the issue and get to that point where we got the City of Roses again. Talk to us.
One thing, there's when I look at District Number 2, I cannot pinpoint one thing that's needed. It's a conglomerate of things that work as like the domino theory. In order to get this done, you've got to get that done. In order for this to work, you've got to get that to work. In order for us to clean up the garbage and the trash and talk about climate and air quality, we've got to clean up the homeless camps. People living outside people living outside are worse than rodents, and they create rodents, and they destroy the ecosystem of our land. So how do you get rid of we have to, I'm not saying get rid of people. I'm saying get rid of that mentality of desiring to live outside anywhere on a public street and not care about the taxpayers and the kids and the senior citizens who don't feel safe to walk the streets. Okay? So how do you do that? You've got to find a place. Well, one of the things that I look at with my incumbent is I just feel that, and this might not be true, but it seems that she's more interested in long-term homelessness and supporting long-term homeless camps as opposed to stamping it out. Okay? Now, Governor Kate Brown, I've done the research, has attempted to close down 3 institutes, they call them jails, but they're minimum security jail facilities. Okay, that is a place for these people to be housed for now, while we can weed out and give people that want to work, people who have fallen on hard times, to get off the streets, live being able to live as in humane situations. And I found out that these 3 jails, are very sophisticated new facilities. One of the jails, in fact, got an award for geothermal energy that gives them hot water 24 hours a day. Everybody can take a shower in hot water. Now, what happens when these facilities are empty? We have to be able, I don't, because she never said anything, Kate Brands never said anything about what she wants to do with those facilities. But since those facilities are available and open, I think that we need to go for it. Um, the trash needs to just be, I mean, just clear the trash once and for all. Once that happens, and I don't think it'll take long. You talk about the city,
Right.
okay, and this is where
Right.
the city and the county can come together and determine what to do with all those trailers that don't work, that leak oil, that are dangerous to our ecology.
Oh yeah.
What are you going to do? We're going to work together and we're going to make a decision. We're not going to walk out the room. We're going to make a decision quickly because this homelessness has been going on for way too long. And as you know, the longer it goes on, the longer we allow it to go on. These people don't live or pay taxes in the state of Oregon. And there's nothing good that has come. Tell me one thing. One thing good. Just mention one thing that good has come out of homelessness.
The only thing good that's come out of homeless is that they've asked the taxpayer to bring the money. They got it in a big pot, and someone is just distributing it to their friends.
You see,
And then when it's gone, they tax you again. And
okay,
that's where we're going. I hate to put it that way, but in simple terms.
but I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing that we have to go with something like this. The government owes it to the taxpayers and the kids and the senior citizens and the people that go to work every day. And the government owes it to them to clear homeless people off the streets.
Well, now remember as it was said in our situation here within this country, the United States, it was a government. The definition of government, it was a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Are we still doing that? Let Joe come in on that piece now.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up. I don't believe it is anymore. Government has said it's government by the government. We know what's best for the people, so they quit coming to us. Even though we are being elected by you out there, you're electing us to these positions. Our job is to what? Serve you. And so, what I want to do, answer to your question with these motorhomes and trailers and RVs, isn't Oregon a mandatory insurance state for your vehicles? Why aren't we enforcing those laws?
We're
If
not
your
enforcing
vehicle-
any of the laws.
I know. And if your vehicles don't have plates, aren't they supposed to be removed from the streets? So, second
Are
part
they
of my
licensed?
thing.
Are they licensed?
Exactly. Second part, the homeless, for me, funding my number one. Number two, funding for the police department. Number two, homelessness, cleaning this up. Now then, we do that by taking vehicles off the street where they can't prove ownership, they can't prove registration, they can't prove insurance. That car, it's got to go.
Well, for
We're
their own
moving.
safety, Joe. Think about that.
And-
The people that said it now, their safety.
How many times have you drove by one of these homeless camps and seen a burn up RV?
That's right. That's right.
You know, and
Every day.
Exactly. So that's
Every
not
day.
safe. One, not for our environment. It's totally unhealthy for our environment to
right.
have that type of stuff burn up in the streets because aluminum burns. Aluminum's
big
not
time.
good for
It's hot.
anyone's lungs.
That's right.
And so these things we can't have sitting there because our children, for me, my grandchildren, play around here. Maybe not around there, but that stuff isn't going to stay right in that area. The wind blows it around. We're going to have problems no matter where we go as long as we continue to allow this to happen.
It's growing like a cancer.
And exactly. And so, and it's bringing not only those local areas around those encampments, but it's starting to spread out now and reach out to some of the nicer areas. And when it starts affecting those really nice areas,
That's when
you're going to see some big people crying.
Yeah, but this time around, you can't wait. We can't wait for them.
We don't
to
want to
go-
wait for
to
that.
spread. We got to take
Exactly.
care of it now.
We waited way
Liz
too long.
Like Liz
Yes.
was saying, it has to be eliminated yesterday.
Exactly.
Agreed. I totally agree. That's where, like I said, we get funding for the police department. Now then, they can do their job. Hey, they can run up. They see that serial number. They can write that down, go back to their vehicle, run
And
that
eventually-
information.
exactly.
Hey, while I'm running your information, I need you to get me your proof of registration, your insurance card, so we can make this all work.
So let's get Liz. This is how we're going to get Liz in this deal. She's the county.
Exactly.
When the police department, the Portland Police Department says,
Thank you.
okay, you broke a law, they put you in jail. They put them in the county's jail. The
They put-
county supervises all the inmates that basically are picked up in the entire county. So when they get there, now check this out, think this out, and to a certain degree, they're homeless. So when they pick them up and take them to the jail, what do? They clean them up.
Exactly.
They give them a bath. They
Medical.
check them out. They're medical.
Yeah.
They give
Mental.
them clean clothes. They put a roof over their head.
And
if
they're
you
able to
will.
work their way
And
out.
That's right. And they go through the whole process. And then at the end of the day, in fact, for the city of Portland, they got Housing Authority of Portland.
Yes.
If you're low income or you go in there and you apply for one of the homes, one of the
Drug
shelter,
treatment.
one of the shelter, or whatever, and it's a straight through kind of a deal. You rent for a little bit, you have a little Social Security and whatever, you pay whatever money you can and whatever. So my point is that the point I'm making is the process is already here. All they have to do is enforce it.
We don't need to reinvent the
No,
wheel.
we don't.
It
But we
just
have to
follow
understand,
through.
it's not. We have to understand. I mean, we're not. It's a lot. It's not as easy as it sounds because you have backlash. You have people that just will refuse to move.
What's that old
They
saying?
want to live outside, and they feel, and they're going to fight you.
Yeah.
They're
What's
going to fight us, just
that-
like you know.
that saying about leading your horse to water?
But you can't make them drink.
That's right. That's right.
Same thing.
So we have to
can
understand when we go
provide,
in.
But there's a lot of people, like you said, who refuse
To leave.
take- yeah.
And these are the people that are out there today.
And that's where we go back to enforcing the laws that are on the books.
By the elected officials
Exactly.
who don't have the background or whatever, who got there, i.e., through whatever their looks or with the money aspect of it. And by the time when the person gets elected, all of a sudden they want to change the rules
Yeah.
and don't enforce the law.
Exactly.
Go on, keep going. I'm just throwing something.
Another
out to you
thing.
guys.
So once that
you're
happens,
running.
then we can begin to build a safe communities and fun communities again. Another thing that I can see are credit issues, education issues. With the money that's being surplus, the surplus money that the county has, why can't that money be used to educate our youth, to educate our college students, to pay for grants, grants that can educate people in our community to get done what needs to be done, like mental health. Why can't we give grants to people to take classes in mental health and study things and come up with new ideas and new solutions that have never been discussed before? We can't just keep going with the status quo like it is today. Okay? The classes that are being offered in the colleges and the universities are they're good. My nephew just graduated with his with his degree, his BS degree in marketing and business.
Nice.
And
Very
then,
nice.
and he ran track as well. But he's only 22. Okay? Now he started his own business in transportation, but I'm like, while you're young, why don't you go ahead and get a degree? Why don't you go ahead and get a master's in psychiatry or a master's in psychology or sociology? Because these are the things that are needed for tomorrow with the homeless situation and around the world. health care for senior citizens. Somebody has got to start policing the real, and I don't know if I should say this,
Yeah,
but the
yeah.
realty industry, the real estate industry in terms, because if we study, and I bet you, if we study how gentrification happened, gentrification is real. It's a name that's been applied to North and Northeast Portland. It's land that's been stolen, but because of we don't have policing and black folks' medium income, according to the 2020 census, the income for black folks at 1% of the population of the total Oregon population is 22,000 a year, far below. Okay,
Wow.
22,000 a year. Okay, the median income for white folks, making up 77% of the population, again, is 67,000 a year. Do you see now why if a child gets if a child gets arrested for a crime, drugs or whatever, that white kid is going to get out of jail a lot faster because they can be bailed out or the parents can pay for an attorney.
Right.
And the parents do not want those kids to be caught up in the criminal justice system.
No parent does.
You
Really.
get no
really,
parent does.
yeah,
You get a
exactly.
second chance, and you can get a second chance. But today, we are building we're allowing gangs to grow. In terms of, I don't want like Mr. Broussard always tells me. He said, Liz, you need to stay in your lane. Well, I'm praying that the city and the other representatives are taking this task and this task and this task so that when we finish studying, and we don't really need to study war no more, okay? I mean, here we are, it's 2020 in the state of Oregon. We're 2020.
Yeah.
There is nothing new under the sun.
Nope.
The only thing new under the sun are the governments and the actions that they take.
Yep. Exactly.
And this racism is this racism will, if we do not stop racism, it will be the end of us.
My theory on racism, for me, where I see how people are equal, there are four elements in life. Four elements that all of us in this room need every day: air, the blood in our bodies, water, and food. Guarantee you, you take any one of those away, any one, and we won't exist anymore.
You're homeless.
Well, you're even beyond that. You're
Yeah,
dead.
yeah, I know. Right? Yeah.
And so, of course, some are faster than others. You take my air away, minutes, you're out. You cut a jugular, minutes, and you're gone. Food and water, it takes a little longer, but the end result is you're still dead. And that's why you and I are the same. We're equal across the board because we all need this. And we should all work for
Unbelievable.
that.
Turn it off.
We should all work,
can't
be
believe that.
working
I
for
turned it
those
off.
those things to make sure we protect them, not destroy our
Unbelievable.
farms. We got to keep our farms going because I
turned
need
it
food.
off.
I'm hungry. I'm always hungry, and I like the air that I breathe, and it's nice when you come outside after a fresh rain
Yeah.
and you can take that fresh breath of that. Everything just smells so good. So why can't we relate just on those?
But Joe, think about it now. Think about what you just said. You're right. Everybody feels that way.
Yeah.
Everybody feel, again, like I said, it's a government of the people, by the people, and for the
Thank
people.
you.
And it just so happened it's okay to look the other way when something can be said in Northeast Portland, all black folks live. Okay, I'm just being straight up. That's where we are on the race piece aspect of it. But in all due respect, remember the NIMBY word they use, NIMBY, not in my black yard? Just like you said, when this stuff starts expanding in these other rich folks' backyard, it will be eliminated. But the definition of elimination today is called gentrification. See, because you can easily clean up a piece of property overnight.
Right.
You got me?
Right,
So-
but it's not being done.
no, but I'm just saying, yeah, that's where we are, the NIMBY thing. But all of us care. All of us care. I don't give a damn what color you are. We all care. But the fact of the matter is, it's kind of like it's like a DNA now. We just keep nibbling, identifying with that same piece when we get in a problem. Okay, so the key is that, and that's why we're talking about this, and that's why it's so important for people to vote this time around. Seriously,
Seriously,
you
yes.
have an opportunity to look at the people that are running, and that's one of the reasons why I've got the two of you guys on there. The people that are running, both of you, and like John or whatever, people who are very much have a resume. They know their lanes, and their lanes relates to the solution to our problems. But a lot of the folks who are running either have money and they just want to just run for running sake's aspect of it. A lot of folks who are running are saying, but gee, I don't care about these folks. Or maybe the racism thing, that's in it. So they got the money and they run that way. And they just focus on their little piece, if you will, their little lane. And that lane does not include the masses. The lane does include the solution to racism. You got my point?
Yeah.
And so that's why we're talking this way, and that's why I have you guys on, and that's why hopefully the viewing public, besides just looking at it themselves, have these conversations just like we're doing. Get your neighbors and talk, and regardless of how it looks, tell people what's on your mind. Tell people what's on your mind, and then at the same time, share it with some other folks. Call your neighbors or call other folks, and this, that, and the other. We could solve this thing overnight. It's almost like the garbage thing. You know, you can't start trying to clean up all this other stuff. You got to have at least get rid of as Liz was
You got to get
these
rid of the
rodents,
people that cause the garbage.
all that's, and then you think about, well, now how does it create? Think about it. They go downtown to pick up a bag of food.
Right.
They go back to that place, and where do you think they throw the trash? Right there.
Right there.
See,
Right there.
Now I'm saying if you
That's
let's say,
disrespectful.
first off, it shouldn't be in town given in the bag. But if it is going to be in the bag, they should eat it right there. They could block off the roads, just put some cones there. Yeah. You have to eat the food right here, and then have potty pots right there. So you know, no disrespect, you got to use the restroom when you get through eating to a certain degree. Got my point?
Yeah.
So my point, we can do some simple kinds of things, if you will. Don't give them the bag to go throw over there in the deal, and then the taxpayers to pick it up. Because then I just went down Delta Park. They clean that place up about every 3 or 4 days, and it's the same
right
deal.
back.
It's right back to the same deal. You didn't have to do that. We have a system called the hauler, the guy who picks up the garbage early in the morning, picks it up.
Right.
They could work a deal out with the haulers and say, by the way, you're going to be picking up the deal. And if they have to put those canisters, those containers, in each of these camps to put the trash in, and pay somebody to make sure that they put it in those canisters aspect of it, that's one way. But the bottom line is that, you know, it's like anything else. You give somebody something. You got my point?
Right.
Well, what's the adage about somebody knocks on the door and the guy says, well, can you give me this? No, I'll give you a fishing rod here. Go out there and catch your food.
I
That type
can
of thing.
give you a meal.
That's right.
But if I teach you to fish,
That's right.
You're eating for life.
And we all do that.
Yeah.
We all do. We're all good folks. You can walk in any area for that matter. Somebody knocks on the door, you see somebody hungry or whatever, they'll either take you in before. Now they don't do that anymore. People don't take nobody in and whatever.
We've all talked about our jobs in
Yeah,
the past
yeah.
and what we've done
People
and
don't
working
take-
multiple jobs.
Yeah.
We did that.
I did
so
it.
we wouldn't be hungry.
Exactly.
So
Right.
we wouldn't be on. We took the steps necessary. So
Exactly.
something that you didn't know is I grew up on welfare. My dad spent the first 15 years of my life in and out of jail. My parents had to divorce, so my mom could get welfare. And then so I struggled. I should be a statistic today.
You are a statistic.
And I shouldn't be the
Survivor.
person that is sitting here in this
Right,
chair
yeah.
Like
telling
me.
you about my life and running for city
Right,
council.
yeah.
Right.
I should be the guy out there on the street because I was brought up to steal, to drink, to party, and to do what was best for me. Lord willing, He changed my life.
Yeah.
He put good people in my life that helped me move to where I'm at today and understand that there's a right way and a wrong way to do everything. And what we're doing here at this table is the right way. We're discussing on how we can do Portland better.
Right.
And that's what we're working on. So remember us when it comes time to vote. Look for our names in the ballot.
But don't lose your point. You got a good point. And within our system,
Yes.
we got a solution. It's called education. When
There you
kids
go.
go to school, when they get in that first grade, they got voc ed in that area. Women are taught how to cook. They got cooking situations. They got all kinds of. They got
Home ec, whatever
shop. They got
happened to that?
home ec. They don't
What
do
happened
that.
to that is gentrification, okay?
Thank you.
Gentrification is what happened to that. When I grew up, I could walk to, it was called Highland then, but this is called Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Elementary School. And every year you have Good in the Hood, where no matter where we are in the world, we show up in Northeast Portland for Good in the Hood, and it gets bigger every year.
Nice.
But that school, literally, when gentrification started, that school was literally, you had mandatory forced busing, so that took money away from the school district. The school district, and then, but even though the government was involved in school, they were not involved in the curriculum. And so that's where the problem lied. They were not involved in the treatment of the kids that were mandatorily forced bus. So instead of me being able to walk 2 blocks to my elementary school with the rest of my friends and my cousins and my neighbors and the kids I go to church with, because when we get out of school we'd walk to Bible study, or we go to choir rehearsal together, different schools, but we went to different schools, but still in the same neighborhood. Instead, all of a sudden we're out there by ourselves in no man's land. As a kid,
Right.
that's not the way that a kid should grow up. A kid should be surrounded by love, neighbors, and a community. It is so true. It takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah, that's
So that's why I would recommend. Seems Lyndon Baines Johnson was really good with models. He took that leap for model cities programs. So I honestly believe that Martin Luther King Jr. Elementary School should be pegged as a model city school program taught with a cultural text from K through 8 again, to keep families together, to keep parents close to the schools, because there is a major seems the vacancies now for affordable housing. Let's see, that's another thing. Affordable housing is not affordable,
On that
even
note,
though it's called affordable.
on that note, that's good. You guys gonna be back. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, we got a lot to say here, and I've got, again, like I said, I've got 2 people that know exactly what we're talking about, and hopefully other folks who are running for office will understand that and start getting on board. It's not too late. Get on board and deal with the issues that we need the leadership right now to solve our problem. And the leadership is running for office. At the end of January, we're going to be set with the folks, and it's going to be very, very important to make sure we select the right folks. Okay, so tune in back with us again on Sunday. You can see the schedule is sitting up there on the show aspect of it. Tune in to Oregon Voters Digest at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock, channel 11. Channel 11. Tune in. Okay. Again, I'm Bruce Broussard, your host. At this point in time, I got Joe here and I got Elizabeth. They'll be here next week, and John. Take care, and I'll see you next week. Have a good one, folks. All right.